setting the Wayback Machine for 2003. All right. So I guess I was in mid-20s at the time. But anyway, I had an idea that I was thinking about, I was toying with for Halloween, something I wanted to do. And it's based on something a friend of mine told me. I had a friend who was teaching up in New York, and she used to do something every Halloween. I was kind of going to do a little take on that. And so Labor Day weekend, I'm at my cousin's farm. And Labor Day, as you guys know, is the very beginning of the school year. Okay? So I didn't really know my students that well at the time. And I did really need a haircut at the time as well. And, you know, I was on vacation over Labor Day weekend. So while I was on vacation, I didn't shave. I started to grow a little bit of a beard. And so kind of having, you know, this, you know, a lot of hair and the beard and everything, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll do this thing, okay? So starting Labor Day weekend, all the way through Halloween, I did not get a haircut. So my afro just started getting bigger and bigger, right? And I didn't shave either, so I just started growing this beard. And so my students eventually got to know me as a teacher. It looked a little bit like some sort of a lumberjack rabbi, okay? So that's how my students knew me, and Halloween was approaching. So what I decided to do is the day before Halloween, I went shopping. And I went to this store called Hot Topic. Are you guys familiar with Hot Topic?
Yes.
Okay. So I walked into Hot Topic. I remember it's 2003. Styles were a little different then. I went to a clearance rack. I picked out a few things, all right? So first thing I bought was a great T-shirt. I think it was for a band called Pearl Jam, which is kind of, I think it was kind of more of a 90s band, right? But I bought a great Pearl Jam T-shirt. I bought a studded leather bracelet, studded leather collar, and then I also bought a pair of bondage pants, which were in fashion at the time among that crowd. They were just these really huge, baggy black pants with zippers and straps and all kinds of things, right? So bought my stuff at Hot Topic, and then I headed over to Pete's Barbershop right around the corner in Sunnyland, okay? So went to Pete's Barbershop, and I said, okay, here's the thing. I got this big afro, right? I got the beard. I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the clippers. I want you to shave my head, all right, to the scalp, but only around the sides, okay? I want you to keep the long afro right on top here, but just shave it bald around the sides. Don't blend it in at all, okay? So he's like, yep, no problem. So he did that. I looked absolutely ridiculous, but I had planned for it. I had a baseball cap, okay? So walked out with my baseball cap on and headed over to another store called GBS, a beauty supply store, all right? Walked in there, got the attention of one of the people, got some advice, and walked out with some hair bleach, some red hair dye, and this little tub of something called short sexy hair, which is basically some kind of like hair glue or something, okay? This really thick gel, very sticky, all right? So I had all that. Now, at the time, if a student got a schedule change or transferred into the school, they got a very specific printout of what their schedule was, and the teachers all got a copy of it as well. So I had brought one of those home with me, got onto Microsoft Word, and started copying all the font and the spacing exactly. And I made 6 copies of a fake schedule for a student named Charles DeMaw. Charles DeMaw is an anagram of Adam Wexler, okay? And each one of these periods, each one of these schedules had Mr. Wexler as a teacher at a different period, okay? So that night, I get the, I trim off my beard, okay? I still have the afro just kind of on the top of my head, just bald around the sides. And I bleach my hair, okay? I bleach my hair and dye it red, although it really didn't dye red, it just became like a dark coppery color, okay? So I'm like, all right, good to go. The next morning I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning, all right, to prep. Okay, I get my razor and I get as close of a shave as I possibly can, okay? I now, so I get out of the shower, I've still got the coppery hair there. I get out the tub of the short sexy hair, and I start putting that in my hair and then twisting my hair so I get these like 15 like thick coppery spikes of hair all on the top of my head, okay? I throw on a long sleeve black t-shirt. Over that, I throw on the gray Pearl Jam t-shirt, okay? Then I throw on the black bondage pants. I put on the, studded leather bracelet, the studded leather collar, and a pair of black steel toe work boots. I'm like, ready to go to school. Grab my backpack. I got the 6 copies of the schedule in it, and I head to school really early. Get there at like 6 in the morning, okay? So I get in my classroom, and I'm like, okay, I got to prep my classroom here. So I write on the board, Mr. Wexler will be late to class today. Please begin working on the worksheet at the front of the classroom. Okay? Prop my door open, head down, and go make my photocopies. Now, while I'm down there, I'm like, okay, I need more distractions. I got the fake schedules, I need a little bit more. So you guys know where Miss Tate's office is? Yeah. All right, right in the hallway there, and the 100. So at the time, there was a different administrator. His name was Carl Manzelli. And at the time, we also were really big on the ID badges. And if you didn't have an ID badge, you had to go get a temporary ID badge, which is a sticker, okay? So I'm like, okay, I walk into Carl's office. He looks at me, he's like, oh my God, Adam, what are you doing? What did you do to your face, okay? So I was like, oh, you know, I just want to do this for Halloween. I was a little upset because he recognized me right away, but okay, that's the way it goes. He's also known me for a few years, maybe that's why, all right? So I was like, hey, Carl, I was wondering, can I get one of those temporary ID badges, you know, just for my part of my outfit here? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So he hands it to me. I turn away, and I start, you know, filling in my name. And while I'm doing that, another teacher from the math department walks in behind me and starts talking to Carl, just muttering to him, okay? So I can't hear what she's saying, but I hear Carl say, well, wait, do you know who that is? Do you know who that is? Now, this teacher who smokes like 3 packs a day looks at me and is like, no, who is that? Turn around, okay? So I turn around and she's like, oh my God, Adam. I was just telling Carl, can you believe what some poor woman carried in her body for 9 months, and now look at what her son looks like. Okay? I was like, well, thank you very much. You know, I appreciate it. I was still a little bit upset that she recognized me. I'm like, you know, she's also known me for a few years. Maybe my students won't know me, right? So I go into the copy room to photocopy the work for my students, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like watching the photocopier. I turn around and there's Miss Evans, who teaches anatomy. Okay, some of you guys have her, right? So she's like, oh, Adam, it's you. I was like, why is there a student making photocopies, right? So I was like, yeah, it's me. She's like, well, that's a great costume. But this is now the 3rd person in a row who really recognized me right away. So I'm like, you know what? Obviously this prank isn't going to work, but it's going to be a fun costume, and they're still going to like telling stories about it. So I'm sitting there, and another teacher walks in, and his name is Jason. He doesn't teach here anymore. But every time he walks in, he always walks in with a pair of orange mirrored sunglasses around his neck. So I was like, hey, Jay, can I like just try putting on those sunglasses for a second? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I put on the sunglasses, and then Lynn and Jay are like, okay, now we don't recognize you. Okay? If we could see your eyes, we recognize you. But as soon as you have those glasses on, no, you don't look anything like you. Okay? So I was like, hey, can I borrow these sunglasses for the day? He's like, yeah, go for it, man. I'm like, okay, very cool. And then Lynn also tells me, Miss Evans, oh, by the way, if you talk, we recognize your voice also, okay? He's like, okay, make sure that you keep the sunglasses on and don't talk. Okay, got it. So on my way out, there's some people in the office, office workers, and I say, okay, I pull out my 6 schedules. I'm like, hey, could you like write down like what period I have lunch? Because that's something else that they do on the new schedules for new students, as they usually jot down what period your lunch is. So I'm like, I'm just getting all the distractions that I can, right? So she fills it out on all 6 copies of my schedule, and I go to my class. I put the stack of worksheets there. The students aren't quite there yet. Put down the stack of worksheets. You know, it says on the board that I'm going to be late, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just walk around. I mean, I don't want to just hang out in the classroom and be the only person there for people to stare at. So I start walking around. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I got my book bag, and I'm just walking the halls with my sunglasses and everything. Now, you got to realize, the students I've known them as long as you guys have known me, right? From the beginning of the school year through Halloween, okay? And I'm walking by them in the hallway with my spiked hair and the bondage pants, and they're looking at me, and then they just keep walking, all right? And I know if they realized it was me, they'd have freaked out. I'm like, they don't know who I am, okay? So I'm just walking the hallways, and I'm just trying not to smile, because every time a student that I have now, or a student that I had for an entire year last year, walks by me and just glances and then looks away, I'm just trying not to, you know, grin from like, hey, this is working, right? So I get to my classroom, and I see there's a few students in there already. So I'm like, okay, I got to head inside now. Now, I knew the seating chart, so I positioned myself in a chair where I knew nobody was going to, nobody was assigned to sit there. And it's right by the front door, okay? Now, the way this classroom was designed, I was actually facing the wall. I was like sitting along the perimeter, okay? So students are walking in, but I got my book bag right in front of me with my schedule signed by an office worker right on top of that, and I got my ID badge with my name, Charles DeMaw, right there on my chest. So all the distractions are there saying, yeah, this is a new student, okay? So they're walking in, a couple are glancing, and then they're going through a class. I hear one kid's like, who's that? He's like, it's a new student. It's like, okay, cool. All right. Now, next to me, there's two students who also sit along the perimeter. To the left of me is a boy named D'Angelo, and to the left of him is a girl named Arsimer, okay? So they sit down. Students are coming in. They're grabbing their worksheets, and they're saying, one student's like, yo, where's Mr. Wexler at? Another kid's like, read the board, dumbass. It's like, okay, great. That's how they talk to each other when I'm not here, I guess. So that's fine. And like, nobody knows it's me, right? So I'm sitting there, and D'Angelo leans up to me. I'm like, man, he's like right there, right next to my face. He looks at me and is like, you knew? Now, I knew that my voice was recognizable. That's what I was told. So I'm like, yeah. Okay? So he's like, well, what grade you in? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like in my mid-late 20s at this point, all right? So I'm trying to bump my grade up, my grade up a little bit. So I was like, 11th. He's like, you're in 11th grade in geometry? I'm like, oh. My old school algebra 2, then geometry. He's like, all right, cool. Well, I think we're in like chapter 6. He's like telling me like what we're working on right now in class and everything. Totally in the wrong chapter. He really doesn't know what he's doing. But that's all right. I'm like, oh yeah, congruent triangles. Yeah, we did this in my old school. So I was like, I just started working on the worksheet. And D'Angelo's working on the worksheet. And Arthur's looking over at us. She's got hers, and she starts working on the worksheet. Everyone else in the class is doing exactly what students do when there's no teacher there. They're not doing anything. They're just talking and yelling at each other and whatever. But okay, fine. Okay? So we're working away, and Arthur's sitting there. And she's looking, and she looks over at D'Angelo's work. It's like, what'd you get? You get segment AB, right? Okay, cool. And she looks over at me. Do that, right? Looks over at me again. And looks over at me. All right, and her eyes just get wide as anything, okay? And she's just staring at me. Her hands are going to her mouth. All right? Now, D'Angelo's right between us, okay? So I look over at her, and I'm like, okay? And she leaps out of her desk. She's like, oh my goodness, and just starts running up and down the aisle. Oh my goodness, all right, freaking out. Now, D'Angelo's just staring at her because she's just freaking out for no reason. Just have a seat right there, okay? Freaking out for no reason. And I'm like, he's staring at her. I'm over D'Angelo's shoulder kind of going like this, all right? I don't want anyone in the class to see what I'm doing or him to see if I'm doing this. So she sees me. She's like, and she sits down. And so D'Angelo's just like staring at her, waiting. He's like, well, what was that about? Okay? And she's like, nothing. Nothing? What do you mean nothing? You're just like running up and down the aisle there. So she's like, oh, the girl at the other side class, she like almost tripped and fell down. It's really funny. You didn't see she almost fell down? She's like, no, I didn't see anyone almost fell down. She's like, yeah, she almost fell. It was pretty funny. She's like, oh, all right, whatever. Well, so they get back to work, all right? So anyway, that was a close call, but I'm like, how am I going to like end this, all right? Because I got to take control of the class and reveal myself. And as I'm trying to figure that out, Arsimer decides that she's going to mess with me, okay? So I'm sitting there, and Arsimer looks over at D'Angelo, and she's like, hey, D'Angelo, I was just thinking about Mr. Wexler. So I'm working away. I'm like, hey, she knows it's me, right? Yeah, she was just, what's she doing? She's like, yeah, I was just thinking about Mr. Wexler. I mean, he's not married. He doesn't wear a ring. Do you think he's gay? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, just trying not to react at all. Not smile, not grin, not just... and she just harassed him. I was like, yeah, what do you think, D'Angelo? You think Mr. Wexler's gay? I mean, he could be gay, right? What do you think? You think it would... looks gay. I mean, what do you think? It's like, D'Angelo's just like, I don't know. What? I'm just trying to do my work here, right? So eventually she like lets off, and I'm like, I managed not to grin or smile or anything. So finally we're sitting there, and the rest of the class isn't doing anything, and we have a quiz the next day, and I really want to do this worksheet, and I'm like, okay, I gotta stop this somehow. So I'm like, okay, I guess I just gotta break it. So I just put my work down. I walk to the front of the classroom, stand in front of everybody, looking at a few students are looking at me like, okay, what's the new guy doing here? I'm like, all right, guys, I'm gonna take over the class now. All right, a lot of students are looking like, oh God, what is this guy? All right, and then one student says, oh my God, that's Mr. Wexler. That's Mr. Wexler. No, that can't be Mr. That's Mr. Wexler. Another kid. Where? It's like, no, Dad, that right there, that's Mr. Wexler. And she said, and they're like, wait, take your glasses off. So as soon as I take my glasses off, the whole class is like, oh my God, Mr. Wexler, what are you doing, right? So I tell them the whole story about how I planned it for months and, all the stuff that I did, just like I told you guys. So that's how first period ended. It was a lot of fun, right? That's not the end of the story, okay? Second period rolls around. Now, unfortunately, at this point, word had gotten out. Everyone was telling everybody what had gone on. Former students who don't have me now, they want to come by and see what I look like. All right, so word gets out a little bit. But before then, I'm like, let me see if I can pull it off again. All right? And so second period, I'm sitting in the middle of the classroom where I know nobody's assigned to sit. Okay? Students come in. I got my new schedule for second period, Mr. Wexler there. A couple students walk in, and one's like, you new? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, okay, well, welcome to class. That kind of thing. She sits down, I'm like, okay, nod, whatever. So a few other students are coming in, they're seeing me, they're reading the board. It's like, oh, we got to, grab the worksheet, get me a worksheet, all that stuff. And then in comes a student named Heather. Heather comes in, and she's got tons of bracelets on. She's got these baggy pants with the straps on them. She's got this T-shirt that says, like, it's all black and in white letters. It says something like, keep staring, maybe I'll do tricks, that kind of thing, right? So she comes in, she's got like 12 earrings in each ear. Comes in, she sits also kind of to the middle of the classroom. She sits down, she looks over at me. And I'm sitting there, and I got my sunglasses on, and I see her eyes and the way she's looking at me, and I'm thinking, oh, this was not part of the plan. I don't know, this is not supposed to happen. All right, but I'm just like trying to just not do anything, right? So a couple students are coming in, some of them are like, new student. Then a student says something like, hey, Mr. Wexler, nice costume, it's like, so where had he gotten out? And then I hear, Heather yelling, ooh, I don't know what she's yelling at or who she's yelling it to, but I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, guys, yeah, it's me. A few students who didn't know or didn't never hear anything, they're like, jaw dropped and that kind of stuff. So I get to the front of the classroom, and they all really love the costume and everything. And I tell them a story about how I put together and everything. And then Heather raises her hand. She's like, oh, Mr. Wexler, I got to tell you what happened. I'm like, yes, Heather? So she's like, okay, so I came into the classroom, right? I sat down and I looked at you. I'm like, oh my God, that new kid is so hot. Shit, I have a boyfriend. Okay? She announces that to the entire class. I'm like, oh, should I let her talk? Okay, that's all right. Well, that's really interesting. No, Mr. Wexler, but wait. I'm like, I don't really think we need. No. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh man, I have a boyfriend. I don't know. I really want to talk to him. He's really cute. And then I overheard Amber. Now you have to realize Amber is another girl that had multiple piercings and the baggy pants and everything. Okay? She's like, yeah, I overheard Amber talking to Lauren, and Amber was like, wow, that new kid's really cute. I mean, should I talk to him? What should I say? All right? But Lauren was like, she already knew that you were in costume. She told Amber, she's like, that's not a new student, that's Mr. Wexler. So I look over at you, I'm like, that can't be Mr. Wexler. And I realize it's Mr. Wexler. I'm like, ew, ew, ew. I was just thinking about my teacher sexually. I'm like, oh my God. All right, Heather, we don't hear any more of the story. All right, so okay, we'll move on here. Okay? So I'm I think even turning red as I remember how that went down. But I was like, okay, let's just move on. All right, so and eventually we just finished the rest of the class there. So at that point, for the rest of the periods of the day, word had spread out, so students were already coming in calling me Mr. Wexler, and so I didn't really get to shock any other students. But my fifth period was actually my planning period. I didn't actually have class then. So I was like, well, I do have a teacher friend in the school. I wonder if I could fake him out. Okay? So at the time, there was a teacher here named Mr. Beverly. Now, Mr. Beverly doesn't teach her anymore. Occasionally, he's made guest appearances, I think, in Mr. Ruiz's class or some of the humanities classes, just, as, guest speaker, that kind of a thing. So maybe you guys might have met him. I don't know. But so he actually taught in this classroom, all right? And I was in another classroom at the time. So I was like, let me see if I could fake him out. So fifth period was Mr. Beverly, Law Studies, okay? I got my fake schedule. I got my book bag. I walk in, and I hand him my schedule. Okay, now he has a history of actually pulling pranks on people and telling stories about pranks. I'm like, this is going to be tough to pull off. So he looks at my schedule. He's like, all right, what do we got here? And he looks at me, and he looks at my schedule, and he looks back at me, Looks back at my schedule. I'm like, oh, he's going to rip into me. He's going to, he could tell something's up. I could tell. So he signs by his name. He's like, well, it's the last day of the quarter. He picked a good day to enter class. Have a seat. So I was like, okay. So I sat actually in that desk right there, okay, right in front of his computer. Now, it was the last day of the quarter, so he was just having a jam session with the students, just answering random questions about law, like, what's the point of, having 5 consecutive life sentences or whatever. Now, I'd kind of hacked the computer system a little bit here, the grade book, and found out all of his students in that period. And only one of them was in one of my classes. So I talked to him beforehand, not to say anything. But as I'm sitting at my desk, I hear another student behind me is like, yo, I think it's a teacher. Yo, teacher, yo, Mr. Teacher, yo. And I'm like, I start doing this off to the side. And so the kid's like, oh, dude, Mr. Really don't know. Shh, shh, shh. All right, so they all start laughing, right? All right, be quiet. So I'm taking notes, right? And I'm actually the only one taking notes, but I didn't know what else to do. So, and Mr. Beverly's just talking. He's not really paying attention to me, but the kids behind me are kind of laughing, right? And I know what they're laughing at. So Mr. Beverly's like, hey, guys, knock it off the laughing, please. Kind of glances at me off to the side. It's like, knock it off the laughing, all right? We're having a discussion and participate or be respectful, all right? So he's answering more random questions about law. And then one of the kids comes out of his desk and he taps me on the shoulder. I turn around, he's got this open box of Altoids. It's like, pardon me, would you care for a mint? And I think what that was because I was trying to project this persona of being really antisocial and so forth, that being overly polite is really a sign of aggression. It's like I'm mocking what you're trying to present, that kind of a thing. But I'm like, oh no, thanks man, I appreciate it, but no, I'm okay. Because I'm a nice guy actually. So he's like, okay. So he goes back to his desk, Mr. Ray is like, hey, good humor man's about to leave the building, okay? All right, participate, be quiet, okay? So again, he glances at me just off to the side. So I'm like, I'm just taking notes, right? So later on, the kids start laughing again at what's going on. The fact that now it's like we're 40 minutes into class, and I'm still sitting there as a student, and And so he's like, hey guys, last warning before I start kicking people out of class, okay? And kind of glances at me off to the side again. So finally, it's like we got 10 minutes left. I'm like, I got to reveal myself somehow, and I got to get to my next class, to set up for them. I don't know what am I going to do here. So he finishes his lecture a couple minutes later, and I'm like, okay, what do I say? So he comes over right to me. He's like, okay, you're not in the grade book yet, so I got to make a little note for you. And he leans right into me, okay? And he's staring at my ID badge. And he's looking at my last name. He's like, DeMaw. Okay. All right, so he goes over to his computer. He starts typing. Okay, what was your first name? Now it says Charles, but I'm like, oh, wait, this is my exit. So I'm like, Adam. He's like, okay, and last name is Wexler. And he looks over at me. I take my sunglasses off. He's like, all the kids start laughing. So he walks over to me. He gives me a small high five. And he's like, all right. And so the kids behind me are like, yeah, I know. That's what we were laughing. What do you think we were laughing at all period? We knew that you didn't recognize him. And so Mr. Beverly's like, well, I'll tell you what. I thought you were laughing. I thought you were laughing at him, all right? And I'm not used to having these angry, spike-headed kids. Usually I just have knuckleheads like you guys. I thought if you were laughing at him, he was going to get up, and then I have a situation I have to just, diffuse. So I was trying to get you guys to just shut up for the period, okay? So that's how that went down. He said, I was like, well, why didn't you make me take my sunglasses off? He's like, well, it was the first day. I didn't want to start, clashing with you on the first day. So, second day I might have said something to you about the sunglasses, so I was going to let it slide for the first day. So that was that, and that was it. That was pretty much the last story for that day. I went back to class and had my 6th grade class or whatever. But it was a really fun day. All right, a lot of people just loved the stories or how I faked it. The teachers loved how I faked out Mr. Beverly. A lot of the students loved how I faked out their friends. We don't talk about Heather again, okay? But that was just another issue that I had to deal with for a little bit. But anyway, that was the story. So anyway, that was my Halloween story. I hope you guys liked it better than Electron 25+2. I don't know if you're interested. I do have a slideshow of my transformation. I don't know if you want to watch it.
You already know the answer to that. Yeah.
All right, so let me show you guys a slideshow then.